Is it strange that whenever I see you say hello with the HAI, that I think of Mr. Miyagi going, hi? Good evening. How's it going? So, I made a couple of changes to the environment here. I hope you like it. I have a little something back here that's for this evening. There's a very special moon tonight, and there's a friend hanging out with the moon. I don't know if anyone saw that beautiful pink gem in the sky that is Mars right now, but it's so bright and so clear from where I live. I'm in the Hudson Valley in upstate New York, and I tell you what, Mars is, when it's really doing its thing, it's this rusty red color that's so clearly rust. But tonight it's different. It's pink, and it's obviously pink, and it's you can't miss it. It's really something. And if you haven't had the chance, pop out real quick. Don't worry, you can catch up. It's really, really special. So if you happen to be as lucky as I am, where we've got a good clear night, and the moon, it's far. I'd say it's a good 10 degrees to the right, to the in this case to the south of Mars, right? So they're far enough apart where the moon and Mars are not competing as far as light. So beautiful. And Mars is kind of dancing with Orion and Sirius. It's like a cool little thing going on in the sky right now. You should check it out. And there's this intense moon energy going on, right? So I just figured I'd pull this out. It's been sort of hanging out in the basement for a couple of years, doing its thing. I thought, why not, right? I even thought about putting beads in it because it's lit from inside, and there's this well that's sort of begging to be filled with something, right? And I don't know, with the kick I've been going on lately, might as well fill it with beads. Semi-precious stones. I think it really begs to be filled with a bunch of, like goddess beads, a bunch of moon energy. Right? That's why I have the scarab out tonight, that pink scarab. And the card that I have on the desk tonight as well is the moon, which we began talking about a couple of days ago. And I think, why not? Let's just pull it out again tonight. It's one of these cards that, when it's that time, it just makes sense. The energy is there, this ebb and flow. There's something to be said for those times where there's a more subtle light in the darkness. There's that time, that period where if we have this to go through it, to say to ourselves, okay, it's time. We face the dark. And, when we first begin to dip our toe in that experience, the moon is our friend. The moon is the thing that kind of gets us through it because it's always there, and it gives us just enough light to remind us of the surroundings, but not enough to lie to us. It's really something. It's just enough to shine ourselves back to us. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's enough to give us the courage to take that next step and to go into the darkness, which is that phase of the hermit. And the hermit is a very special time where if we do have the drive, the support. Brianna, how's it going? I'm glad you're here. Happy, beautiful moon evening. That's your fault. The hermit is one of these periods of time where we all face it to some degree. Some of us get sort of thrust into it without our permission or expectation or feeling like we can handle it. But so be it. And sometimes we're fortunate enough to walk in willingly. And when we do that, it's really special because we kind of know that we're in for some work. And so we can prepare for it, and we can perhaps even be guided through that process, right? And when we can do that, then we can really have some learning. And this is really a beautiful depiction of that in the Crowley Thoth. What we have is the hermit in the darkness here. And there's a lot of different symbolism going on. I'm not going to go through everything, but there's a few things that I think are important. There's the lantern that he's holding, and what's inside that lantern. Essentially what that light is. What is the light of the lantern of the hermit? That's an important question. When you look at, for instance, the Rider-Waite system, if you look in there, it kind of looks like a Star of David, maybe, right? And in here you can see what Frida Harris did. It almost looks like the sun, but it's actually something even more special if you zoom in further. I have some pretty deep scans of this deck for that reason, and so right now I have the Hanged Man up, which is kind of similar to this with respect to, if you think about what's in the middle of this card in the light, and you consider that from a holographic perspective of what's above and from which this Ankh is emerging, it sort of ties together. There's this sort of story happening of this idea of the descent and the ascent, whether willingly or not. In the case of the Hangman, very much willingly. There's this idea of what occurs during that phase and afterward, right? And we see here, there's almost this idea that there's the Orphic egg at the end of this journey. And it's almost as if once the hermit emerges from this darkness, he emerges as that egg and is born as a new will. But the light that's inside, that's the important thing here. The light that's in that lantern is eternal, is immortal. It doesn't change. So Rob, how are you? I haven't seen you in here in a while. I'm glad to see you. So you get the idea here, right? The lantern is really important because, ultimately, if you break down the symbolism and you go through the process, you recognize that the lantern is not just the light that the hermit uses when he's in the darkness. It's the thing that emerges because he's in the darkness. And in fact, it doesn't emerge, it's uncovered. It's the thing that's always been there, that's been veiled. And so ultimately, the light that's inside of that lantern is the only thing that is real. And the work of the hermit is to come to that conclusion, to see that truth. I've mentioned many times that you can't see the truth in the light because the light shines on everything, and it's hard to discern the truth from the lies. And in the darkness, you're forced to use something other than your eyes. You see nothing. And so as you go through that process, out of necessity, your heart begins to shine. Your heart begins to call out from that darkness for the other. And the voice that it uses is its own light, because that's ultimately all you have when you're in the darkness. When you're shed of everything but the self, all you are is that beautiful, infinite point of light. And when you speak, that light shines. And it will be heard by the other. That's how it works. When you speak the correct note, it rings across the universe, and it resonates with that thing in a very natural and beautiful and infallible way. And so it can only happen in that place, though. It's otherwise it's not the right note. You're singing with the wrong voice, right? And so it requires that place, but it's very beautiful when you go through that process, because what you emerge as is yourself, devoid of all of the enablers of the veil, the enablers. And so, it gives us this beautiful opportunity then, if we recognize that this work is real and is possible, and that end goal is right there. We have the power to willingly go through this process on our terms, without having to wait for trauma, or having to wait for, perhaps a jarring consequence that's out of our control, that we're perhaps not ready for at the time, but, we'll grow from nonetheless. It could be certainly a lot easier and without suffering if we participate in the process, right? And certainly, of course, with guidance, even better. I mean, on the shoulders of giants, right? We have this beautiful language of the tarot and this beautiful art and science of esotericism, hermeticism. These are beautiful things that we've been given, these tools to come to these truths on our own without suffering, and to experience them in a lucid state, and here, now. It doesn't require hours of drumming and breathing, although that is very effective, and I recommend it. But it's not necessary. And one of the ways that we can get through that process willingly is the hangman. There's many different symbols. The hangman represents a lot of things. It has some alchemical symbolism. It has some esoteric symbolism with respect to Kabbalah. I think one of the more beautiful symbols is the symbol of Peter, who was crucified and insisted, or at least this is as the story goes. There's many different versions, but I think the doctrine is really the point. He insisted on being crucified upside down, out of respect for Christ. And there's actually a much deeper symbolism to that with respect to the idea that the ankh is pointed down, the head is down. It's in the act of descent, but it's a willing descent. It's a decided act. And why? Why is the decision made? In order that others can ascend. It's a willing fall for the not only the personal enlightenment, but rather the enlightenment of others through your fall, through your decision. And that said, it's essentially the idea of, similar to what I've spoken about with the ankh before, where it bypasses the ego and it's just the heart speaking back to the heart. So it sort of, it cuts out the middleman, right? A similar idea, but in reverse. And so it's the same idea, but the conversation is geared toward the lower world. It's not geared toward the self. It's very beautiful. It's also incidentally one of the supernal triads. The Hangman card is the card of Mem, or the water card of the supernal triad, the Aleph Mem Shin of the air, water, fire. And there's some other important symbolism as well that I'll get to, as we look at the different facets of tarot with respect to Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, the alchemical, and all of the different systems together. But suffice it to say that there's a lot of symbolism in just those couple of cards related to this process of transformation, because that's what we're here to do. Transformation is real creation, because the process of creation was designed to be unfolded. And so when we participate in that unfolding, we participate in creation itself, which is our destiny. We were given the power to tell the story because we were chosen to craft it. And so, far be it from us to deny that, right? And I don't know about you, but my story has like a kick-ass ending. And guess what? You're in it. And it's awesome. And don't worry, you don't have to wait, because we're doing it right now. I don't know, it feels good to me. In my story, my coffee's awesome. And it is. So, pardon my voice, I'm feeling a little better today. I'll tell you what, though, regardless of anything else, I am on this kick and I can't stop. So I made another one. I made a couple of other ones. Let's look at one very simple one first before I get to the big one. I made another kid one out of marbles. This one's great. And basically, you just kind of take a look and you turn it and you keep looking at it and turning it. It's another one of these ways to sort of just instill the idea of the elements and their combinations, right? The fiery part of water is the King of Cups. You know, if you wanted to look at the idea of the tarot. Or you could even look at it from the polarity system. And so just tell them to shake it up and look for the marble that's in the middle. And ask, is it male or female? And so right in the middle there, it looks like we have blue. Right? So blue to me says cup, which is decidedly female, right? And so even in the I Ching, you could use that as your yin line. Give it a quick shake, see what's in the middle. Okay, right now we have white. So of the black and white, the white is the male, so that's going to be a yang line, right? And so it's really a very, very powerful tool for understanding polarity, gender, elements, the interplay. And the mathematics works the same way as the other oracles, and so it's really effective. It's basically the analog to the original children's version, right? And in this case, the significator here was the pencil, and here it's those white and black beads, which is quite lovely. And it's you know, it feels good. It has a different kind of vibe in the hand. It's got some weight. It's quite satisfying to kind of roll around. I don't know. It just feels good. It's sort of the graduated version, right? And it's really very colorful. I love that. If you're interested in learning how to make it, it's very simple. Just, you know, throw me a line, email, text, WhatsApp, direct message, whatever the case. I'll be happy to run you through the math to make sure that everything's there that needs to be, so it represents all the symbol systems. But it really is quite simple. The basic oracle is a very simple thing to create. The complete system is really powerful, but is not too difficult either. You know, once you have a handle on the tarot, the separation of the types of cards in the majors, and you know, the difference between some of the court cards and the smalls, and how that's looked at, can be a pretty important key for unlocking everything. But I find that the bead oracle is a way to do just that. It kind of unlocks the tarot, and the tarot unlocks the beads, and they work very well together. Going to be doing a lot of cards tonight, and we'll see. We'll kind of put those things back and forth and see how they play. Right. I added some to this one. Right. This is just another one of those polarity. This is just polarity. So you look at each bead individually and think to yourself, is that a masculine or feminine? Is it a positive or a negative? It's really just a yes or no oracle. And it's also a place, incidentally, to store some extra beads. Right? A lot of the oracles have very special beads, and if they happen to get lost, you need some extras. And so I have some spare beads in here. But every time I added one bead, I always made sure I added an equivalent. So if I added a small black one, I added a small white one along with it. If I added a red one, I added a blue one. And I made sure that there was always that equivalent. So this is not only a completely even number, but there's every bead has an other. There's a mate. There's a soulmate to every bead in this jumble of beads, right? And that's the beautiful thing. And whenever I take a bead out, I have to find its other. It's quite an experience, and it's very, I think, symbolic of a lot of the path that we're all on. At the end of the day, that search for the other. And so it's a nice little reminder of that. And at the same time, it's a beautiful dance of those polarities and all its different myriad. Look how beautiful the different patterns are. And there's so many textures. And, you know, and if you give it a good vibration, all the big stuff floats to the top. And you'd be surprised what's actually in there. Some very interesting little beads, you know, emerge as you go through that process. A little heart popped out, right? Some just fun stuff in there. Look at that big crystal, that large quartz. Right? There's some interesting stuff in there. It's a nice little surprise. There's a tooth. You see that, like shark tooth? I mean, just all kinds of fun stuff in there. I made a change to the trinket box. It started to get pretty dense, and it was getting a little out of control. So I thought, you know what? I got to take some trinkets out. I got to bite the bullet, and I got to take trinkets out. And then I thought, nah, I need a bigger box. So I got a bigger box. So now, I mean, the goal is obvious. Fill the bigger box. But in the meantime, there's tons of room. It's easy to see stuff, and we're going to have a blast with that tonight. We're going to tell some stories. I'm going to do some cards. But, you know, I had some plans for this evening. And I decided to throw them out the window because I was divinely inspired to speak about the Holy Guardian Angel. What that really means. How do we meet ours? We all have one. I mean, you guys have met mine, right? Let's see if he wants to talk. Ardo, are you there? Do you want to talk to some people? Hear me. I am the Guardian Angel. Okay, good. So it's looking like he's in a talkative mood. So at least we can speak to mine. If you're having trouble meeting yours, don't worry. I have mine. You can talk to mine. It's no problem. I'm warning you though. He's brutally honest, and he's a little I don't know. He thinks he's funny. You know, one of those. So just just go with him. If you laugh at his jokes, he'll do anything you want. That said, though, we're going to have that conversation. And we're going to talk about specifically one of the things that came from that process. Aleister Crowley went through the process of attempting to make contact with the secret chiefs. And he succeeded. And they gave him instructions for conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel, which is a hyperdimensional being. This is a being of higher intelligence than us. It's a praetor human intelligence that we have the capacity to communicate with, to learn from, to be in direct conversation with. And when we are, we have access to its knowledge. It speaks to us and it gives us the knowledge. Now, he not only achieved conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel, but he dictated the Book of the Law through it, through a 3-day working in a very specific working with himself and another. Obviously, when you're doing something like that, it does require the work of another. And so that was a magical working with him, and I forget her name, but a powerful swearer. And they scryed together, and through that, he dictated the Book of the Law, which are the instructions for the new Aeon according to his magical system. Now, it's a pretty beautiful thing to read, and I encourage you to do so at least once in your life, and then twice, and then the third time. It's very occult, and so you have to recognize that when you're reading it. But when you do come to the truth, and you will at some point, if you're studying this, it will come for you. And you read it then. It's pure genius. It's pure genius. It defies commentary. Commentary would just simply profane the truth. It would just add to, remove from it's. You can't just. It's perfect. And so there's no. How do you alter perfect in any fashion? You can't. It's a fool's errand. Take it for what it is. It's experiential. You're not supposed to teach it. You're supposed to point to it and then you have to come to it on your own. I'm sorry, it's true. The Book of the Law is beautiful. It's for you. It's not for me to tell you anything. It's not for you to learn it from elsewhere. I can only give you this advice. Read it twice. Read it twice. The first time is with the heart. What am I reading? Doesn't matter. If you ask that question, you stop and start over. All right? And so just take it in. You're reading poetry or watching a movie. Just take it in. It's a psychedelic experience that happens to be experienced through words. It's like Finnegan's Wake. Try reading Finnegan's Wake. James Joyce, please. I challenge anybody to get through the first paragraph. The first paragraph of Finnegan's Wake is a true, absolute acid trip. Same thing with the Book of the Law, only it's the entire book. And so just consider that. But it's not an acid trip for the mind. It's designed to rip your soul open so you can see through it and into the truth. And it's very effective at that if you let it happen. It's in 3 sections, and it's spoken from 3 different individuals. Nuit, Hadit, and Rahorquit. These are just names of individuals. We've seen them. They appear on the Stele of Revealing. I actually have a picture of it right here. Anyone who has this book has a picture of it right there. Okay, this picture has 3 individuals on it. Nuit is the blue individual that's going across the top. And then we have Hadit and Rahorquit, which are the individuals in here. And there's some other stuff going on, and you can certainly, there's so many resources. Put in Book of the Law, Nuit, Hadit, Rahorquit, It doesn't take much to bump into. But that said, though, what it is referring to is the Holy Trinity, right? Isis, Osiris, Horus. The Sun, and Sirius. So, at the end of the day, though, it's all pointing to one very important thing, and that is that the goal here is to, if possible, recognize that the secret chiefs are not they're not human, right? We're talking about hyperdimensional intelligence. We're talking about intelligences outside of our normal senses means of detection. It's not a physical temporal experience, and since we live in a physical temporal state, it's really hard for us to wrap our head around that. Like, how do we communicate with something using tools that require time space to something whose perception is outside of that, who's not restrained by those rules? Yet we are, right? Well, it turns out that we are from some degree. We are from the degree of the manipulation of physical matter, but we aren't from the respect of perception of subtle energies, perception of, for instance, attention, the present moment. When we are able to put our attention on an object, on a phenomena, and recognize ourself in it, and to have that recognition that we are not only the observer of the phenomena, the thing we're looking at, the color, the sound, whatever, the sensation, but we're also the sensation itself. We're the whole thing itself. When we have that recognition, and we're no longer just the observer anymore, but we recognize that we're also the thing being observed. We're not only the listener, but we're the speaker. We're able to, from a state of listening, speak. And so we become that beautiful duality of something that's listening and speaking at the same time, which is really, that's the state that we are already in. But when we realize that we're in that state is when the power happens. That's the point where we begin to have the conversation. And so if there's an entity, like for instance this stone, and I take this stone and I look at it and I understand it and I recognize it and I see that it's speaking, and so I listen, and then I recognize that it's me speaking, so I now recognize I'm speaking. And so I went from listening to speaking. And then I embody it. That's an actual experience. That's a real thing. And so now I have the access. I have access to all of the things that not only I, but I and it have access to. And I have a conversation between it and I, and that recognition. There's a bond. And in that bond is the dance. And we're both empowered in that moment. It's actually sensational. You can feel it. And there's a channel that opens in your mind where you can feel the rightness and the alignment between your mind, body, spirit. And the heart just becomes an open vessel to the correctness, because those three things now in unison sort of become a shield, a screen that replaces the ego, which is the normal screen. What the ego does is it hogs all of the thoughts, and then it only disseminates what it wants you to hear. It's almost like the propaganda machine for its agenda. But now, when you have the proper screen, it bypasses the ego, and now you just allow the cup wide open, safely knowing that all of the thoughts that you enter are correct thoughts, and you just become a channel for truth. You can sit back and actually literally listen to yourself talk, watch yourself paint. It's a beautiful thing. And so, that process is knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. When I embody the rock, I become it, and we have a conversation. Well, the rock has an intelligence. So does the scarab. There's qualities about it: pinkness, roundness, thinness, heaviness, frequency, polarity, gender, vibration. It has qualities, elements. And when you combine all those elements together and you kind of look at it as a thing, one of the things that we can call that thing, that it becomes when we look at all the elements of it, is the intelligence of that thing. Rather than listing off a bunch of qualities, we just give it a name and call it the intelligence of that thing. And what that name is the embodiment of those elements. Okay? Microsoft. Computers, software, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs as a competitor. Not quite Microsoft, but same thing. There's like the word embodies all kinds of stuff. It's one word. The intelligence of this entity in a word. Okay? Satan. That's a word. Satan, right? Wow. Jesus Christ. Even people who aren't Christian, the word just sort of like Satan and Jesus, those words kind of stir something, you know? Even if it's stirring, I don't give a shit. I mean, it stirs something in somebody, right? But the point is that what these do is that they point at an intelligence. They point at an actual thing that exists, that is the combination of qualities distilled into a word that elicits a response in us because we holographically know that word means that thing. There's a a karmic connection. That word rings in us. It resonates with our truth to what the actual meaning of that word is. The full sentence, the full paragraph, the full epic of what that word means. Well, there's another intelligence in this world that we can communicate with by speaking its name and waking it up, and that's called our holy guardian angel. We all have one. It's unique to us. And it's real. And it speaks. And we can speak to it. And the goal of the work is literally that. There's no other work in the world worth more. There's no work in the world with a greater reward. It's access to universal knowledge. It's access to no suffering. It's access to the self. To true love. To the end of suffering. And to the ability to share that. That's what it is. So how do we go about doing that? Well, it just takes a little bit of want. And you know what? If you're listening to me talk after you came in here thinking you were going to get a tarot reading and you're still here, then you're probably on that path. You might be. Maybe not, but you are. Let's be honest. And so stick around. You know, there's a lot of different tools that have been given to us by divinity, by ourselves, to help us on this path, right? Because don't forget, we're at the end of time, waiting for ourselves to catch up. We were born in the beginning. We exist at the end. We have always been. You know, why does the tarot work? When we shuffle those cards and lay them out and we look down and we can tell the future. Because we're not telling the future. What we're doing is we're remembering the past. It's not predicting the future. It's an act of remembering, not predicting. Why? Because we lived it. We wrote the story already. You know, we lived it, so we know how it ends. So when we're looking at the cards, we're not thinking, what does that mean? We're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then we communicate that to ourselves here, right? Our higher self that went through it communicates it to our lower self. So we're remembering, we're not looking into the future. And it's that conversation that gives us access to that information. It's that conversation that gives us the end of suffering. Because if we're at the end of time, then who else is there? Everyone we've lost. That we miss. They're there. With us now. We're there. We're here. They're here. We're all here. So, yeah. You know, these are all signs. Everything I'm talking about here it's a stream of consciousness and it's channeled information, but they're just signs. We're just pointing to the truth because I can't tell it to you. It's not speakable. It's knowable. It can be known. It just can't be taught. But you will know it. Because you already do. We've had flashes. And that's what it is. It's a flash. It's a thunderclap. It's like, oh, I get it. That's what happened to me. I literally gasped when it happened. Really, the truth of it, it's like I got kicked in the stomach. I couldn't even get the word wow out. It was just like the truth of it, right? And then there's no going back. It's beautiful. I mean, everything you read from that point on makes sense. It's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. The tarot makes complete sense. You'll never read the Bible the same again. Everything is different. And it's great. Things that used to matter, things that never mattered at all, are everything. It's really beautiful. And the thing that matters the most, you. You value yourself. And you value the people in your life that love you. You see yourself in everyone. It's the end of hate. It's the end of division. Intolerance for injustice. A militant desire to end it. It's really quite something. And if we were able to achieve this as a society, watch out world, we would really be something. We would be the race that we should have been all those years ago. This beautiful little rainbow splash of culture and diversity and everyone kind of growing together, because that's what we're here to do. Hey man, are you good at making bread? Cool. I'm pretty good at curing meat. Let's make a roast beef sandwich. Like, how cool. Let's sit down and drink some wine, cheese. Who's good at the piano? I can sing. Not tonight, but I'll be better soon. It's a cool conversation. Once you open it, you can't close it. And you're not going to want to. And here's the cool part too. Your HGA can talk to other people's HGAs. It's kind of how you embody things. It's kind of special. You know, we talk about the astral plane, and you know, anyone who hasn't gone through the steps, it's interesting that somebody brought this up today, wanting to talk about this, because one of my mentors, somebody is very gracious to rebroadcast his stuff on YouTube. And one of the subjects he's been speaking about for the past several days is the astral world. And he's reading from Crowley's Magick and Theory and Practice, which is a great book with respect to certain subjects related to the practical side of magic. I mean, thus the name, Magick in Theory and Practice. But the way it's laid out is a question and answer format of his neophytes writing him with questions and him answering in letter format. And one of them asked related to the astral plane. And it's a great little chapter of Magick and Theory and Practice with respect to Crowley's opinion on this subject. And, you know, his answer can be a bit esoteric at first, but once you've come to the truth, it's so obvious what he's talking about. And I mentioned it here. Although I'm more of a truth told openly kind of person. And so if you take the information that I give you that is still too easy and you're like, I don't get it, he's just saying it's that simple, all you got to do is close your eyes and go back to the past. Well, yeah, that's it. Yep. And remember that it's not an act of recollection. You're not trying to remember it from a third-person perspective, right? You're there, present. But you're there. And yeah, your body doesn't leave here. That's breaking the laws of thermodynamics. So you're not trying to leave your body. Your body's going to stay. Your perception leaves. And now the point, though, is that in Magick and Theory and Practice, I have a copy here. And I'm going to get to it in a couple of streams, not tonight. I'll read from it when my voice is better. It's an interesting perspective, and it's one that you can look at and kind of approach many times in your life. And each time you approach it, it makes a different sense and more sense. It unfolds a little more, and you can tell what he meant. And so again, I encourage you, there's a few even of my prior streams where I titled them along the lines of channeling and these things, so you can see what I mean by that. Embodying, invocation and evocation, and what these things really are. It's important that we don't fall into the trap of thinking that we're separate from these beings. That there's some angel or a demon separate from us that we're calling. That's not what we're doing. We're waking up a part of ourselves that happens to be outside of our physical form, but it's still us. Actually, I have to say, Duquette put it best, man. The guy's, he's full of gems. What he said was, it's all in your head. You just have no idea how big your head is. And there it is. And so when you're calling on spirits or invoking or evoking, or if you're bringing into manifestation, or if you're conversing with an intelligence outside of your consciousness, recognize that that's a fallacy. That is your consciousness. That is your form. That is you. And once you recognize that, you have control of it. And until then, you're just playing games and you're just playing with toys. Sorry, but it's true. Now, it's effective from a divinatory perspective. It's effective even for certain respects manifestation. We still bring things to ourselves. You manifested me. But at the same time, it's still accidental. There's so many factors. There's so many variables that are there that we need to contend with at that same time. And so we are just observers most of the time. But the decision to take agency back is a real one, but it's all or nothing. This isn't something that you go, okay, well, I'm going to 10% of the time take agency from my ego. No, you don't. That's the ego fooling you into that 10%, thinking that you have control of it. You don't. It just has to work for that 10% to fool you into thinking you have control during that time. And then the rest, it just takes control back. No biggie. No, doesn't work. So, how do we go about that? We're going to talk about that. Because it's fun. That's what we're here for. So why not? One of the things I thought might help actually is I'm going to discuss the axioms of magic. There's several different axioms. The Hermetic axioms are great, and I've talked about them with respect to the Kabbalion has a good example of the 7 principles, the Hermetic principles. The Corpus Hermeticum has a breakdown. It's really just the unfolding of the Emerald Tablet, but at the same time, it's all there. The axioms I'm going to refer to are from Cunningham, and they appeared in the Magician's Handbook originally. Great little sort of compilation of these elements of the magical system of thinking. And so I'm going to kind of review a couple. We're going to maybe talk about 2 or 3. I'm going to review them a couple per evening until we get to the end of the list, and with commentary. That's the point. We want to kind of discuss what we're talking about here, and how we can apply that to our tarot. How can we apply that to our meditation and our manifestation, right? And so it's going to be fun. So before we begin, let me just catch up on the chat and see how everyone's doing, and then I'm going to go from there, and we'll begin with the at first with the first couple of axioms, right? So let's catch up here. Cool. So yeah, did anyone jump out and take a look at the moon? It was really something special. And specifically Mars, that pink, it's so bright. I mean, it's bright normally anyway, but it's pink. It's like, I don't know, there's something about the color tonight. It's special. You should definitely check it out. It's not common that it's that color. I don't know, it's really something. I made a new oracle. It's a lamp. Wait till you see it. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to wind up drilling holes and lighting it and everything, but it came out great. The oracle itself is 90% complete. It's a smaller version than I'd like, but there's certain beads that I need to get that I don't have yet. They're sitting in my shopping cart on Amazon, and I'm going to grab them when I can. They're larger. They're similar to the beads that I used for the female version. They look like these, but they're aqua. So these are pink, right? They're pink and copper and green, right? The ones that I'm going to be putting in there are aqua, but same size, same kind of style, that hand-painted style. Beautiful. They're sitting in the shopping cart. I'm going to grab them. And there's some other beads that just to kind of beef it up, give it a little bit more with respect to, well, you'll see. But I can't wait to show it off. It came out great. It looked yellow to me, unless I was looking at the wrong thing. What, the large bead? Yeah, well, it's pink, green, copper. There may be some yellow in there. Yeah, it's sort of like a floral design with a pink flower. So it's mostly copper, green, and pink flowers. Mm-hmm. And so I guess you could read that as yellow. Let's take a look. Also depends on this camera. Yeah, that green may come off as yellow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And see a little blue splash? See that fivefold symmetry on the blue? I love that. Right. And the bead itself is a copper. The star. Which planet? I'm confused. What did I miss? Which star? I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, outside. Mars. The pink one is Mars. Now, Jupiter's out as well, but Jupiter is going to be white or cream colored. It's not going to look reddish or pink. The one and it is obviously red or pink. Yeah, that's going to be Mars. Yeah. Mars. And Jupiter's out as well, but Jupiter is sort of white and brighter than Mars. And it's going to be closer to them on the moon side than on the Mars side by Orion. All right, so look toward Orion and then look for that super bright pink sky, like north, like up toward Orion. It's going to be special. And with the full moon too, again, the fact that it was far enough away, it wasn't competing with the light, and so it was super bright. It was cool. Yeah, I can't remember ever seeing a pink Mars. That was cool. At first, I wasn't sure if it was Mars. I'm like, no, that's because I've looked at it my whole life, right? It's that rusty red. Not this time. It was really something. Yeah. Now the one that's flickering really fast, that's Sirius. Planets don't flicker, right? They glow. So if it's flickering, it's not Mars. It's not going to flicker. Planets, they move quick, but they don't flicker. The one that's flashing really fast, that's Sirius. And that's the one that's over by Orion, to the left of the moon. Right, the moon's going to be over here. Orion's going to be over there with Mars, and then you're going to have Jupiter and Mars, or Jupiter and the moon over here, to the right. If you're looking south. But yeah, and so it's pretty though. It's pretty. Something else. So the first couple of axioms that I think are the way he lined it up, I thought was interesting. But the first one is the law of worldviews. You know, and I've mentioned worldview here before. Yeah, well, okay, so Sirius, yeah, you can't miss that one because it's like constantly flashing different colors. It's really neat. Sirius you can't miss because it's like it's probably the most active star in the sky. It flashes so quickly that it's like you can't miss it because it's one of the brighter stars, but it's also like constantly flashing. Like, look at me. So it's a good one. If you're looking at Sirius, look up until you see that the star that's not flickering, it's kind of glowing instead, and it's gonna look obviously red compared to the stars around it. That'll be it. And if it's cloudy for you, that's unfortunate. You might have to also cover the moon with your hand just to kind of assist that. But yeah, I can cover the moon with your hand. Just watch what he does when I shut it off. It's almost like the face, the expression changes. See how he's happy? And it's like a different kind of expression. I don't know. So, worldview is something I've mentioned before. Worldview is the idea, or at least my perspective, worldview is the idea of the assumptions that we make. The things that are ingrained in our thinking that we don't even think about, that they inform our decisions in a subconscious manner, because it's a piece of information that we just know to such a degree that it just becomes part of our thinking without us consciously bringing it up and using it. One example is like the times tables. Or another example, for instance, is the idea that the floor will be there to meet my foot when I stand up. I don't think to myself, gee, I wonder if the floor will be there to meet my foot. No, I just stand up and, I don't, it doesn't enter my mind. My worldview is solid matter does not pass through solid matter. So therefore I can put stuff on the desk and it's not going to pass through the desk, so that my foot will not pass through the floor. I can sit in a chair and I won't dissolve through the chair, right? That's just an idea in my mind. That's a solid form of my thinking to such a degree that it does not require me to have any thought. I don't have to calculate anything. My brain just assumes that. And so anytime I am going to interact with solid matter, that's not even considered. It doesn't waste brain power thinking, gee, am I going to be able to lift that? It's, it doesn't even enter. And so that's a worldview. But here's Cunningham's example, or his definition of the law of worldview with respect to the magical axioms. So it's called the law of worldview. The world we perceive is actually the interface of the nominal world, the Tao, or the objective reality that's unknowable, and ourselves, the subjective. Changing our worldview does not change the eternal world, the real world, but it does change the perceived world. This is important because that's the world we touch and see and we act upon. Changing your worldview makes real change in the world which is real to us. Because there's an infinite number of ways to perceive the world, there's an infinite number of worlds that we can assemble with our awareness. The true underlying reality is unknowable to us as long as we retain a worldview of separateness and self. You could become one with the universe, but you cannot step back and observe it because you're in it. You cannot observe a phenomena without altering it by your mode of perception. There is no such thing as an independent observer. You participate in creating the world by perceiving it. Okay, so that's the idea here. So I'm just going to take this and see, pop this here. Okay, and so that's the first law. Okay, where did it stop changing? I'm not sure how much it's going to allow all at once, so let's just do it this way. And now the idea here is just starting right here. Basically, the world that we experience, that we touch and feel and taste and experience, thoughts, the world that we think is all that there is a mixture, a combination of the world that is unknowable and the world that we actually live in. He refers to it as the objective and the subjective, which is, we can talk about that because that's, again, I really, although it's the first law, so it's, I'll give him a pass. It falls into the trap of duality, which is kind of ultimately a big lie that helps, keep us grounded, and it keeps us from knowing the truth. The dualistic thinking is the biggest failure of Western magic. But anyway, I digress. Missy. Oh my gosh, you're here. Am I Sissy from another Missy? I know. Here. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, that said, though, Worldview is important because we do have the capacity to change that. It changes when we come to a specific truth. Yeah, that got held for review, which is strange. Is there another one that I missed? Let me see. I think that was the only one from Missy. I think that was it. But if we consider this here, changing your worldview makes real change in the world. This is important. Shushu, how's it going? Awesome. Wow. Everybody's here. Where's Luana? I miss Luana. Happy eclipse. I know it's been a crazy moon period, right? Awesome stuff. Gorgeous night. I was telling everybody about Mars. If you haven't caught it, Missy, Mars is gorgeous tonight. This big, beautiful pink gem in the sky, that's Mars. So gorgeous. Jupiter's up there. Mars is up there being all pretty. Love it. I don't know. Mars is feeling special tonight. You know, a friend of him told him that real men wear pink, and he took it to heart. Because tonight he's wearing, like, his rose quartz jacket, and it's just, like, it's awesome. 5:15, okay. 5:15 Eastern? Cool. That's right around the time I'll end, so it'll be just in time once I'll sign off at 5 a.m. and jump outside. Love that. Yeah, it's gonna be a cool moon. I have my moon tonight, Shushu, and to honor. And my full moon tonight. And yeah, fun stuff. So let's continue with the axioms here. The second one is very similar, actually, and it's something I've mentioned here as well, but his take on it is interesting, and so we're gonna I'll read it. It's a shorter one, but I'll read it and then we'll talk. It's called the law of attention. The more evidence one looks for to support a given law, conclusion, or worldview, the more one will find it. Worldviews have inertia. Since we can create our world each moment, as discussed in the world of the law of worldviews, we are constantly maintaining our worldview. This is done by means of a recursive internal dialogue of words and symbols with which we are constantly editing our perceptions. By rearranging our attention, we rearrange our worldview. To quote Lewis Carroll, what I tell you 3 times is true. Yep. Tonight's the red moon. So, you know, that's an important thing here. The law of attention is the mechanism that manipulation takes place on a grand scale. I just want to read it again and consider what I just said as far as like Big Brother. The more evidence one looks to support a given law or conclusion or worldview, the more one will find. So if you put out a conspiracy theory about some lunatic, wacko, hyperdimensional reptilian race that's going to, clone through a pizza oven, and people buy that, they're actually going to find evidence for it if they look, even if the evidence doesn't exist. This is just kind of the reality of the human pattern-making machine. And so it's careful what you take in, because you will find the evidence if you go looking. And so if you try to believe nonsense, you're going to find nonsense. So be careful. We need a screen. Since we create our world each moment, we are constantly maintaining our worldview. This is done by means of a recursive internal dialogue of words and symbols, which we are constantly edit our perception. By rearranging our attention, we rearrange our worldview. So as our internal dialogue becomes more complex due to our vocabulary increasing, we become more intelligent in that discernment. And so we can sniff bullshit better. Essentially, the more our vocabulary complexity increases, the more we can view and interrogate a circumstance from multiple angles at once, and we can most likely catch that thing we missed last time that put us in a position of being controlled instead of having agency. And we can discern where we put our attention. That's how magicians work. They take the coin, they show you the coin, they grab the coin's gone, right? It's simple, basic. If you're looking at it from this perspective, you don't see it. But if from this perspective, it's just being dropped in the hand, right? But it's all about that misdirection, because I'm having you look here and you're looking here while it's here. I mean, it's just, look here. Where your attention is what's real. You don't even realize that it just got dropped. You know, it's just simple attention. And at the end of the day, we decide where we direct our attention. In fact, that's all we're doing. That's the only act we actually impose. That's the only act we actually execute. Where we direct our attention to. Everything else is imagination. So a law of attention's a biggie. Third one, kind of an important one as well. The law of synchronicity. Synchronicity is a term invented by Carl Jung to describe meaningful coincidence that cannot be described by the law of cause and effect. Synchronicity is the mechanic that allows Gematria to be cool. Okay, I'm just going to start over. Synchronicity is a term invented by Carl Jung to describe meaningful coincidence that cannot be described by the law of cause and effect. There are events connected by pattern rather than time. Some interpret this as developing an ongoing dialogue between the perceiver and the consciousness of the universe. This dialogue is overt to the degree the perceiver is receptive to it. If you're not receptive, this is just a rock. If you have the ears to hear, it's speaking. It's listening. It's neither. It's just lines. But otherwise, if you're not listening, it's just a rock and there's no wisdom. The dialogue is overt to the degree the perceiver is receptive to it. So the more open you are to the hearing the words, the more you will hear them. And you are always speaking. Your higher self is always speaking to you. But it's drowned out. We have to listen with the correct ears. And when we do, we can only hear the truth. And what is that truth? That's our voice speaking. Last one. This is the fourth law. There's many more, but we're just going to cover 4 tonight. The law of relative truth. Every statement is true in one sense, false in another, and meaningless in another. This is a function of one's vantage point, or worldview. In the words of Hassan ibn Sabah, nothing is true, everything is permissible. Okay. Beaver blood moon. Gross. That reminds me of fake vanilla flavoring. Artificial vanilla, natural flavor, beaver butt juice. Yeah, but it tastes good. What are we going to do? Deny that it tastes good? Come on. Let's be clear here. Number 1. The law of worldview. Worldview. 1 + 1 is 2. That's a good one. We should hold on to that one. Right? Worldview. Canada, the United States, and Mexico are different countries. You know, worldviews are some of them are useful and they're effective for a certain degree, and some aren't. I think one of the important things we have to recognize about worldview is that they are, by definition, by nature, they are unconscious to us. Since they're assumptions, we have to go through the work of turning the lens in and go, wait a minute, what are these things that I assume? What are the things that form my decisions and thinking and opinions? What are the things that I jump to as a conclusion that I don't even apply thought to because it's an automatic process? Whenever there's a process that's automatic, you should probably pay attention to it every once in a while and reevaluate. I know when I originally formed that behavior, it worked for me, but that's when I was 14. I'm going to be 50. Maybe I think different. And so when you consider who you are now and the source of that automatic behavior, it can be an interesting exercise to recognize, okay, well, you know what? I do like these things, or I don't like these things, or you know what? This isn't who I am, it's who I was. I outgrew that. Worldview, though, is the vocabulary. It's the lexicon we upload into our brain that our subconscious and conscious use to try to communicate with itself. And so we are limited by that vocabulary. And it's best that we go ahead and throw out the useless words and fill it with good words, and we understand the grammar, the mechanics of that language. Because worldview is a very important thing. It's the forms that we access when we try to define our world. But at the same time, when we alter that definition, we alter the world. In a true and a literal sense. Gematria is cause and effect? No, but Gematria is, we're looking at essentially, let me go there. Attention and synchronicity. So Gematria is the more evidence one looks for to support a law or conclusion, the more one will find, right? Oh, this word means what? It must mean something. These two mean, here's an example. The word truth in Hebrew is amet, which in Gematria means Yah hears. That's awesome. The word of truth means God hears. It means without number. That's awesome. Truth and no value. Psh, awesome. I did Tamura. Guess what it means? Kabbalah. The Gematria for the word truth is the word Kabbalah. So come on, which means to receive. Which, it's awesome, right? You know what that means? Nothing. But it does, but it doesn't. So the law, and let me paste it in the chat here. The law of attention. I'll start sentence by sentence. So the law of attention says, the more evidence one looks to support a given law or conclusion or worldview, the more one will find. Worldviews have inertia. We create our world each moment, and we are constantly maintaining our worldview. This is done by the means of a recursive internal dialogue of words and symbols in which we constantly edit our perceptions. Now, that's the important thing here. It's a recursive dialogue, meaning we go back and we agree. We're in a state of just, oh, yeah, that's fine. I'll agree with that. I'm just going to, no, I like this. I don't like that. Here's who I am. I'm the same person as yesterday. I'm not going to go through the process of maybe changing that or being open to being a different person or growing. It's just, this echo chamber. But we do have the capacity potentially maybe of saying, no, you know what? I'm going to die daily. Just completely erase who I think I am and be open to becoming something new. And letting the worldview be based on experience. I actually bought fake vanilla the other day thinking it was extract. Oh, gross. If it doesn't contain the word Madagascar, don't buy it. So yeah, worldview is a biggie. I'm trying out a new setup. What do you think? I'm going to have it go across the top where it shows all the different stuff that I'm doing here. I got the tarot, the Ching, the beads, the Astrology, but I have to put Goetia here or the Rose Cross for sigils and something related to Goetia and Solomonic and stuff. Kabbalistic. I don't know. I don't have enough room for all the symbols. I need one symbol that is everything. I know. A dot. It's kind of a blank page with a dot. That'd probably work. All kidding aside, though, so when you start to combine and recognize these ideas, worldview, attention's a biggie. It begins to make sense. It begins to sort of dawn on us that, okay, we kind of write the narrative as we go. And the thing that actually exists at any given moment is the thing that we're paying attention to. And we recognize that the thing that we're paying attention to is us from the state of speaking while we're listening. Then we do have the power to create entities. We do have the power to create intelligences. And to direct that will toward an end. And if we can do that, then there's only one thing to create. And there's only one end for it to strive for. I mean, what else is worth it than knowing ourselves and the other and to experience that for the rest of time? I don't know. I challenge anyone to come up with a better ending to a story than that one. Because that's how my story ends. And if you're in my world, that's how your story ends. It's going to be great. So I'm going to just jump on the break, but before I do that, I'm going to show off this new amazing thing I made today, because you know what? Again, I'm so inspired, I can't stop. Stop me, please. Actually, I'm done. I'm out of beads. I'm officially out of beads. There's no more making oracles. I'm done with oracles until I get beads. However, I will be getting beads soon, and I'm going to have to eventually start selling this stuff. So if I do start selling it, you know what I thought? I have 2 words for you people. Tell me what you think about this. I just had an amazing idea today. It finally dawned on me the proper way to go about this, and I have 2 words. Are you ready? Is everyone sitting down? Kickstarter. Because here's the deal. This is a custom kind of gig, but there's also oracles that are ready-made. So I'm going to make several for children, several for adults. Like this is one example, right, of a quick little, like, pocket, ready to go kind of vibe, right? I could easily sell that for $1 amount. Have one that's made out of glass, one that's made out of semi-precious, and 2 price points, whatever. But the goal is to create real, actual, like, for instance, a full magical system, but that's custom per individual. This is mine. No one's going to ever touch it or use it. These are my beads. I chose them, but there's no reason that you wouldn't go through the process with me to choose your own specific beads, your own planets, your own binary beads even, your own small cards, the whole shebang. The type of vessel that gels, the manifestation is a different circumstance, and we'll talk about that custom-wise, and the form factor. The form factor is important. I like the dish. It works for me. But I've been bouncing around a lot of different ideas. Like, for instance, this small cup, I think it's a great idea. It's small. It can sit, you can have the beads just right there. And if you want to go larger, you can run the entire, both the male and the female together in the space, so there's more space to go about that, right? So I thought it was an interesting factor with the box kind of idea. But then it dawned on me that, you know what, I don't know, if I were going to make one personally for myself, and I was getting deep into the tarot work, I would want a lantern. There's a couple of cards that kind of ring with me specifically, and the Hermit's one of them, and, that lantern, that's... And I knew I had one. I had to look around. It was like an old Pier 1, and it kind of got a little rusty outside and whatever. And so anyway, long story short, I found it. It took me a couple days, but I finally found it. And I put together a little oracle today, and here it is. So the oracle itself is here in the ball. We'll look at that in a second. And now I have it kind of in there. Oh, let's see, what's the best way to show this? I guess it's going to be that way. I have the dish. It's a brass dish. Okay. The hearts are very nice. Something about that I like. The symmetry of that's beautiful. It's like you have the 3 court cards and then the aces or the princesses with that one in the set. Anyway, but it's cool. I mean, it's got some symmetry to it as far as the 3-fold, the 4-fold. It's got 12, but also 16. Those are hearts, which is really neat. There's some stuff going on here, right? Interesting. And now on the inside, this is just a doily that I dyed purple, right? It used to be white, but I dyed it purple. Have fun getting that color again, though. That was a combination of, that was not the, that's mixed. But anyway, though, so I thought that the purple would be nice, my definition of purple. So. Now, wow. That happened. Yeah. I have extra beads. But give me just a moment. I lost my small cards. You get the idea, though. The finished version, it will be a glass container, and the top will be screwed on. It's not gonna. This is like like a Christmas bulb, and that was always a danger. But yeah. So the I'm not 100% what type of bulbs I'm going to use in the finished ones. There's certainly going to be glass, and the top obviously needs to be able to be opened and closed at will. And that's an important component. And I'm going to have to count these out later and correct that, so ignore that. But it comes down to being able to open it and close it, because the idea here is that you use it in the globe when you're wanting to hold it and experience it this way, and otherwise you would experience it in here. Right? And so the purpose of it would be able to read it in here and do the shuffling in here and to overlay, depending upon the system that you're using, to read it in this process, right? Or ultimately, which I liked about the form factor as far as with the lantern from a meditative perspective, is to have the lantern in front of you with the lights going down and reading it with the beads in the lantern, right? So the idea is from a storage perspective that this hangs in the lantern itself decoratively, and when it's time to read, you can pull this down, spill the beads into the lantern, and then read them that way. And when you need to shuffle, you can either swing the lantern, or you could, stir them and read them that way. So I think swinging the lantern would be a bit more appropriate. It implies the walk through the darkness, right? And so let's just go through that exercise very quickly here. Let's just get these poured in here and show you the difference here compared to that, or having the dish as well, which serves as a like a base, and could also store other beads and some other things if you'd like in there as well. Right. Okay, so there's that lip there to hold the beads in, and you would essentially read them that way. Let's see if this will show up on the camera. Maybe that one. Yeah, right. So you can see those there. Okay. And it's just an interesting way to kind of read these. And obviously you could apply the same concept that we have before with respect to the pentagram, or with the overlay of a chart, the houses, or any other method for looking at these elemental correspondences. Right. And so this is really ultimately just a form factor more than anything else, and I just think it's a very clever and creative way to show the oracle from the respect of all the different methods of how it could be displayed. You can have something that's very sort of elegant and simple and small, to something that's very elaborate and lit up. And when it's finished and lit, you'll see I think it's going to be really something special. I think it's going to be something special. And so let's just close this up. Okay. And that's going to be a lot of fun to develop as I go through the steps of putting in the lights and looking at the kinds of vessels. There's also this factor as well here, which is it's round but flat. And I think this might not be bad either, because it gives us some more surface area when it's in here, and this could certainly hang in the lantern. And so for the lanterns, this one is just mine as a prototype. This is a Pier 1 lantern. It's not the lanterns that I'm going to use when I'm building the lantern version. I need to find a lantern that's relevant, that has the correct components that I need, that will allow me to do the things that I want to do with it. Have a nice deep bottom for you to throw your beads in and not be worried. Be able to shake it around and some things. But it will need to have the hermit lantern kind of vibe. And And also some room for a tarot deck, right? So there's a deck that I had pulled out, or maybe my mini rider is an example, like a mini rider deck that we could stuck in there inside of that tray or behind it, that would allow you to use the beads with the cards, right? Because that's the point. Oracles and tarots together work great. Two tarot decks work well together, but an oracle and a tarot work very well together. And this type of form factor might be better if it's flatter. And these are all just things I'm going to go through as the process. You know, the dish version with the beads works just perfect, and that I know. I mean, that's been doing that a long time. It's tested. I understand how that works. There's a lot of ways that you can display that: wood, glass, metal. You know, soap dishes with ornate animals on them, all kinds of pretty stuff. This is a little different. This idea of the lantern, and it's going to be fun to progress through that and have a little bit of fun on how that comes about. If you guys have any ideas about that, let me know. And I'd be happy to kind of take a look at some of those ideas, some of the ways that we can put this in some type of form that makes it easy to use, but gives the flexibility at the same time of using it in multiple ways, right? So let's catch up on that. A good idea. They look like smiley faces. Crystal, yeah, sure. And if they have a decent sized ball that is hollowed out that you could put stuff in that's crystal, I would love that. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'd have to find a good source for that, but sure. Yeah. I mean, the point is that, you know, if it's pretty, it doesn't hurt, right? You want it to work, but if it works and it's pretty, better. Definitely better. So, yeah, when I get back, we'll do some stuff. We'll do some cards. We'll do some beads. We'll do some trinkets. Wait till you see the trinket box. It's so much better now that it's huge. It's huge. It's like 4 times the size that it used to be. It's kind of great. And then, let's see. Let me check my notes and see what else I want to talk about today. Okay. Cool. All right. Okay, good. All right, so, yep, I'll be right back. And, yeah, no problem. And, you know, just guys think about what you want to start with. If you would rather me do tarot first, or I Ching first, or the bead oracle, or, you guys tell me. Otherwise, I'll be right back. I'll see you in a couple minutes. I'm back at the speed of Carrick. Oh my God, you're so right. Look at them. I love that. They're so happy. They're laughing. I will never unsee that. I will never unsee the happiness. Look at this one. Come on. 6 angels. Making that 6-pointed. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, come on, catch up. Love that. So you get the idea. Yeah, it's the gist. Yeah, I think the lantern is going to be a very interesting idea. Once I get the actual form figured out, find a good source for lanterns that I can count on, having a good supply that I can either drill or have pre-made with the spots for the LEDs. And I need a solar panel, and I need a chip that will, do what I need to, with respect to like voltages, to change the color and other things. You want it to be able to do what you want it to do. And color is very important with respect to magic work, right? What is your intent, and that you want in that when you exit, so to speak. So, good stuff. So right now, from the southwest to the southeast, starting from the bottom, Sirius, Betelgeuse, which is the upper left shoulder of Orion, and Mars are in a straight line pointed at the moon. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. Beautiful, bright pink Mars. Gorgeous. Mars is wearing pink tonight. That little scamp. So. Oh. Too good. Grab your wand. Let's go. Got some work to do. There's a lot of people out there. Here's mine. I'm ready. Let's do this. You ready? I've been through. Here's my proof. I got mine. You ready? Here it is. Jeez. Carrying that egg up. All right. In the form of that lamp. It's there. It's all there. So, there it is. I can take you there. I promise it's okay. You're gonna love it. Listen, don't be scared. We're not talking about anything crazy here. It's just dying. I do it every day. Trust me. After the 4th or 5th time, it's nothing. So look at this cute thing I made. Isn't it cute? The masks that we wear. Mm-hmm. My little... I like it upside down. Kind of, someone told me that I'll never unsee it. It kind of looks like an owl upside down. And it does have that owl vibe. Yeah. Very dark crystal kind of vibe, you know. And it sort of reminds me a bit of like Secret of Nim. Yeah. So where should we begin? Should we do some tarot? Or should we do some beads? Or should we do some I Ching? Or should we do some trinkets? Beetlejuice is awesome. We may actually witness that explode in our lifetimes. Please God, let that make. Can I please be alive to watch Beetlejuice explode? I mean, that's not asking much, right? I've been good. I've walked your path many times in my life. Well, most of it, sometimes, not really, but I've wanted to. And, just, please. Because, come on, I mean, the sky will light up. I mean, if that happens at night, it's going to be like daylight. We're gonna have this thing glowing in our sky for a long time. And a beautiful new supernova to study. And it's gonna be amazing. And Beetlejuice will never be the same again. Like, it's gonna be cool, you know. It's like Orion's wound exploding. It's gonna be interesting. I wonder what the implications of that are with respect to its battle with Scorpio. And how that's gonna change the mythology. Because don't forget, we're exiting the age, right? So things are changing, and don't forget, Scorpio is going to essentially, transmute. It's going to become the bird. It's going to become air, and Aquarius will, finally be recognized in its water state. So yeah. That said, though, wow, wouldn't that be something? Well, I don't know how far away it is, right? How far away is... How far away is Beetlejuice? Because this is the real question. I mean, I don't think it's far enough. I don't think it's close enough to be afraid. I don't believe that it's actually something that we have to worry about being dangerous if it does nova. Well, not nova. If it collapses. I'm sorry. If it collapses. What's going on with my phone? Can I please? I can't. This is no longer useful. It's officially become useless. Yeah, this is yeah, don't you? I love technology that it sounds cool on paper, but then just is like, no, you had your chance. How far away is freaking Beetlejuice? 642 light years. We're fine. That's well safe enough that we will enjoy all of its glory with no fear. I mean, a GRB might kill us, but if not from Beetlejuice. But yeah, that'd be pretty rad. 643 light close. All right. Well, I mean, that's a relative statement. Let's say 643 light years is like, Columbus. Yeah. Yeah, the light that's hitting our eyeballs tonight happened around Columbus, right? That is pretty close. You put it in that perspective, it's actually kind of cool. I just got a little like, it is kind of close. We're not talking about stuff like, Andromeda that takes 200,000 years to get here, That's a good point. Wow. Yeah, shoo, man. You're right. Huh. 600 years isn't that long. I don't know, 640 years, that's scary. Man, that is pretty scary, isn't it? But it is going to be beautiful. I tell you what, I welcome it, and I really hope it happens in our lifetime, because that would be something. I hope it does. It will. Because I want it to. Come on, man. I mean, it's going to happen in the next 100 years, and it's going through this. The dimming is getting in a weird pattern, and it's showing signs. It's showing signs. I don't know. Did Nostradamus say anything about it? Did he ever talk about some kind of second sun? I don't know. I happen to have my little book of Nostradamus. Let's see what he has to say. Hence the meaning of exploded thousands of years ago. Well, yeah, that's just... Well, you know what? It might have. I mean, that's pretty close, 643 light years. It might not have exploded, but it might have exploded up to 600 years ago. Mm-hmm. 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 I have one page marked. Let's see what I marked in here. From the rest of humanity, 9 will be set apart, for judgment and advice separated. Their fate will be sealed at the moment of their departure. Kappa, Theta, Lambda, dead, gone, scattered. Okay. From the rest of humanity, 9 will be set apart, for judgment and advice separated. Their fate will be sealed at the moment of their departure. Kappa, Theta, Lambda, dead, gone, scattered. KTL. Almost sounds like the Challenger explosion, right? From the rest of humanity, 9 will be set apart. But there were 7 astronauts, not 9. From judgment and advice separated, their fate will be sealed at the moment of their departure. Scattered. Dead, gone, scattered. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. Interesting. Yeah, it implies that only 3 of them died. Kappa, Theta, and Lambda dead, gone, scattered. 9. How many moon missions were there that actually landed? Or that there's like 15. Oh, interesting. I don't know why I marked that one. Maybe I want to do the Gematria on KTL. I mean, listen, if you're gonna play, with our toys, let's play with our choice. KTL. Let's do Cough. 20. Theta. Let's do Teth or Tau. Tau 420, 450. 450, 9. Let's look at 450. Because why not? Do you know what this means? Absolutely nothing. To make oneself like. The cleansing. Bum bum bum. Nuit. Whoa, Nuit. Just to be clear, Nuit is the 3. It is one of the 3. Nuit, Hadith, Rahurkuit. We were talking about the Book of the Law. Nuit is the Nuit. She's the one who wrote the first book. Nuit wrote the first one. Had the manifestation of Nuit. All right, that's the first couple of words of the Book of the Law. Had the manifestation of Nuit. And so Nuit is the, her, she, in the womb. There she is. That's her. See that winged? There she is. All right, you get it? Okay, good. All right, we're good. All right, so, yeah, neat, huh? Cool, neat. That was neat. That was an accident. Total accident. That was, how cool was that? How cool was that? Oh my gosh, look who it is. How's it going? Pada. Vesta. See, I'm almost able to vibrate. I'm getting there. By tomorrow, I'll have my voice back. Maybe. I'm feeling like it. I'm feeling like I'm getting there. So that's just very cool. I love that kind of synchronicity, right? I mean, you bring up this thing, and I bring up this thing, and then, well, Nostradamus. Oh, look, I have a page marked. What's this? Boom. Nuit. When I marked that page, like 3 weeks ago? That's just cool. And we were talking about the Book of the Law, and I just mentioned her name tonight. Well, when's the last time I mentioned the word Nuit? Come on. That's just awesome. What about this one? I like this. This is a cool setup, right? I just dig this. It's a big screen down here. Although I can't figure out why my screen keeps doing that. 20% of the time I can't move my hands or anything without it freezing, but sorry about that. So then there's this. So yeah. Maybe I should try to find a good high-res version of the Steel A to put up on here, because I think I own one. Don't I have? Let me check something while we're just chatting here. I may have a high-res version of it that I might be able to. Give me a sec to try to find it. Because I believe I might. And if I do, this would really be something if I can grab it. Hang on, I'm sorry. I didn't expect to actually bring it up tonight, so I didn't have it prepared, but I think it might be relevant, and so maybe I think I do have a version, though. I believe I downloaded it. Maybe not. There's one last folder I can check. Give me just a moment. I'm almost positive I grabbed it. I don't know. Sorry, guys. Give me just a moment. It's not a stream without Michael. Unless he spends 10 minutes looking for some nonsense that he doesn't find. Alright, so this is old hat. Oh, wow. This is an old picture I drew a long time ago. I mean, I may want to pop that up and just share that. But, hang on. Wow, neat. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I forgot about this. There's a sunset that I did, but I recolored it from the perspective of I may actually wind up showing that. Hang on, maybe that's the reason I did this. Hang on, I'm not seeing it, so I may just cut bait here in a second. Hang on. Oh, that's a neat image though. This is all my alchemical stuff. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. When do the alchemical stuff, you guys are gonna have a blast. There's all kinds of real goodies in here. I don't know, maybe I'll give you a little, let me give you a little primer. Hang on. Let me zoom up on here. Okay, hang on. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yep. Yeah. So I can't find it. So yeah, sorry about that. But there is one thing that I do want to pop up since we're here. You may or may not be familiar with the piece that I've shared before. Let me just get it up on the screen here and make sure I'm set properly. Okay, good. Let me zoom in. Okay, this particular... It's one of my favorites that I've ever done. I don't have the original anymore. Actually, somebody else does. And the reason that they have it is because they appreciated it. Anyway, so, but that said, I recolored it. Digitally. So the recoloring is completely digital, but it's still, the difference. There's like an aliveness. And the idea here is the experience from our perspective can be different than what's actually meant to be experienced, right? It's we add more to it. We add meaning and color and temperature and these things that make it more than it was on its own. We are the creators of beauty. Without that, it just is. But with us and it speaking, look at me. I see you. You're beautiful. Thank you. That conversation is beauty happening. We have to be open to it. And what we get from that when we allow ourselves to have that is we take something that's already pretty and just make it beautiful. And that's the point. But so, let me catch up, and then we'll grab some cards. Cool. Are you? Yeah. Yeah, so, and that's a great book. That Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot is an amazing book. And if you're studying tarot, and grab it. It's the truth told openly. If the Book of Thoth is the truth and secret, which it is, then Lon Malo Duquette's Understanding Thoth Tarot is the truth told openly. It's really great. Actually, there's a card I want to cover today, which is the Hangman. It's actually, I wear this. I added a couple to this particular piece. I want to be clear. I outed myself to my church. I had a conversation with my pastor, and I told her the truth. I made a decision that I wasn't going to rerun for consistory. Basically, I'm not going to maintain my position as deacon because there's a potential for that to have gone to a different level, to a higher level, and I didn't want to go there with my. I felt that there might have been a level of dishonesty with respect to the fact that have decided to be open in a way that I haven't usually in the past. And I outed myself this Sunday. I went into church and I wore my stuff, and I talked to my pastor about who I am and what I talk about and what I do. And she said, "Listen, I have no problem with any of that, but it's important that if you are going to maintain the leadership in the church, that there's a certain doctrine and there's a certain belief." And I said, "I understand that, and that's why, And so we came to the conclusion that that's okay, and whatever work that I do is on a personal capacity will remain, but with respect to the leadership of the church, I'm just going to go ahead and and the elections have already been passed, and some people have been selected, and they're a great bunch of people, young people, 2 young women, very special, are going to be sort of taking on that role in a very, very cool capacity. So it's good to see that, and it's good to kind of pass that torch. But I added a couple of things to my Ankh, right? I have my upside down Ankh, which is my Hanged Man. And it's my constant reminder of that. And it's along with this is the Mayan calendar. It's a sun amulet. It's a divine masculine, along with the Hangman for that. And then this is a special thing. It's a piece of magic that I put on here. It's an old piece of magic. But I added some things that I kept off. And I usually only put on for working, and I haven't shared it publicly. But I put them on here. I have a key. And another piece, which is basically the 4 elements of the tarot in one thing. But I connected them with my thumb ring that broke. My thumb ring broke, and so I just rolled it up into like a piece, and they have that. And so now this is it's getting more complete. That I actually, for the first time, wore it out publicly. I left the house as my magical persona, and entered my church as that person, and ran the service as that person, and spoke to my pastor as that person. Wow. Because it was okay. It was okay. And I was okay with stepping down. Like, it's not going to change the work that I do and the people that I care about and the people that care about me. Nothing's going to change. Just that right now, my title on a piece of paper says deacon, and it won't in 2 months. That's the only difference. And that's that. But it was, I plan on wearing my jewelry out. I know this is like crazy, ridiculous, sort of obnoxious, sort of like warlock mode, but that's who I am. And I'm going to continue to be that unapologetically from now on. It was a little weird because I wasn't lying per se, but I was limiting portions of who I was. And I understand that we all do that kind of anyway, but not with respect to my capacity within an official organization. It's not fair to the organization, I felt, and so I'm just going to be honest with that. I can still go there and worship and do my work with that respect. And again, my worship's very unique. My perspective is different than theirs. But that doesn't mean that I can't take in what I know to be true, and read between the lines of the words, right? And that's what I'm doing anyway. That's what we're all doing anyway. So I don't really see there being any conflict. I understand the idea of the descent into flesh. I understand the idea of the willful sacrifice, of the transfiguration. I understand the idea of redemption. I understand the idea of humility, the idea of being surrounded by that love, the idea of receiving divine intelligence. These are simple concepts. The idea of the Trinity, every two has a third, complementary opposites. These are very ancient concepts, right? It was a big deal. It was a little bit freaking scary. I have a very deep love for my pastor, and I have a very deep respect for her walking it. She walks it. She's not a talker. But also I have to say, she made it easy. I think she kind of knew that there was a part of me that was not satisfied, that was not okay. And we finally got to the core of what that was, and now we can move forward with love, and there not have to be any kind of expectation, and I'm okay with that. And so, and it also allows me to more openly do my work. And I can openly speak to people, even in my church, that are more open to this than they might think. I've already identified a couple of those people that I'm working with directly now on a different capacity. They're over here sitting on my couch, and I'm doing tarot readings, and I'm doing charts and magic in one particular circumstance. We did a banishing and a binding. And she wound up going to court, and it turned out in her favor, and in a very good way. Let's just say that she was a bad individual that now can legally not go near her for quite some time. Okay, and she's going to be safe. And that said, right, so that's a big deal. And now that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have ever even broached that subject with somebody and then be open to the fact that I'm here to, raise entities to go do bidding on her behalf. That would not fly in my church, you know what I mean? But that said, though, so yeah. I'm okay with it. It was scary, and at the same time, I'm okay. So, and it just opens me up to a whole different world, right? So let's do this. I want to show the trinkets. The way this new box is awesome, and I'm gonna do the trinkets, and then we're gonna do some tarot, right? Am I having latency issues? Most likely, yeah. Yeah, you know what? And I think there was an update to Windows 11 that just broke my OBS. I've been looking at multiple different things. I've kind of corrected a couple of things here, hardware-wise, that I think I didn't get a new router yet, but still, it's not my bandwidth. It just isn't. And my computer seems to do okay most of the time, but since this update to Windows 11 and a couple of updates to OBS, it's still having issues where I'm running at like 20% drop frames, and my processor's trying to pick it up, and so I'm getting like low FPS. I don't know. Anyway, but so I'll figure it out. So I apologize for that. Yeah. But so yeah, I got a bigger box. Let me just move this whole thing over here, and then we'll go from there. Because there were so many doodads in here, it was getting a little out of control. So I thought, you know what, let's just get a bigger box. And that's what I did. I used to have a bunch of cards in here. This used to be a big Oracle box with several decks in it. And now, instead, it is turned into a big box of trinkets with the sole purpose of giving us all kinds of goodies to tell some stories. Because that's what we're here to do. Let's tell some stories. Let's make some room here. That better. Having just a big old box to sift through now instead of having to deal with that small crowded one. You can really spread this out and take a look at what's in here, right? And again, I plan on really adding a bunch of stuff in here as well as I come across them. What kind of flower is that? It's not a lily, right? Is that a lily? Can someone identify that for me? I would really like to know what that is, all right? Because I want a lily and a rose, and I have plenty of roses, right? Here's one example of a rose. And then there's, let's see here. Where's that fan? There's a few roses in there. Bunch of small stuff. And there's that little shoe. You know this one. Gabrielle, how's it going? Good evening. 3:22, what a great time to come in. 3:22, that's a goodie. If anyone wants to know the significance of that, just go over to whatever the case on Google and Google Exodus chapter 3, verse 22. Exciting. Fun stuff. It's the numbers on the door of the skull and bones. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Any new stuff? Got a couple of new things that I wanted to kind of show off here as well. There's one in particular that is actually very, very special. Let me see if I can find it, and here it is. There's somebody very special in our church that recently passed away. And her husband had brought all of her jewelry to the church and said, anybody who wants any pieces, grab it. And I grabbed a couple things. We were very close. She was a special lady, I'll just say that. And that said, though, this had been in that box for a long time, and I wasn't sure what it is. And so finally, when I saw that no one had grabbed it, I just grabbed it. Because it was special to her. And I wasn't sure what it is until I grabbed it. And then I was very, very surprised when I looked it up and saw what it was. What it is a very specific crest. It's an emblem. It has a couple of prayers on it. And then there's a crest in the center. And there's a prayer across the top. Okay? And what the prayer says, it's in Latin. And what it says is Nisi Dominis Frustra, which is Latin for without God, no rest. And it basically means that with God, or essentially with right thinking and being correct in your decisions, you don't run into all these issues that cause suffering and pain. And without God, total randomness. It's hit or miss. And that means suffering, most likely. And no rest, right? Even if things are going right, you're going to have to work for it, right? As opposed to things just kind of coming easy and flowing naturally, right? When you're in right thinking. So that's the idea. Nisi Dominis Frustra. There's a song, which is really quite beautiful. It's sung by Andreas Scholl, called Nisi Dominis Frustra cum titri. It's in Latin. He has a beautiful voice. And it's written by Vivaldi. And Carolyn, that was her name. She passed away of cancer, unfortunately. She was she led a very beautiful life, and was a special lady. We shared a love of classical music, and specifically Vivaldi. There's a certain kind of seriousness and longing to his strings, and that particular piece is really lovely. One day I'll share it. And it turns out to be the motto of our church. That's the motto of our church is Nisi Dominis Frustra. And she knew that, and nobody else did. I remember asking that when I first got there, and then doing some research and finally uncovering it in a book that was written 100 years after the church was founded in 1807, that discussed that, and it had that in there. And then I went looking online and found the song, and so I mentioned it to her, and she's like, oh yeah, no, I love that song. And so then for me to find this, a year after she passed away, and it's been sitting in that box for months and no one looked at it, and it's actually the song that we connected with. It's just very special. It was meant to be in my possession, right? And here it is. And so it's in here. And now there's a lot of ways that we can decide how to define that symbolism. But there's a couple of ways that personally, for me, that means some very special things right now, right? Because for me, that means shared wisdom, a shared connection to this union in this church. And it also means that the statement of the actual piece itself, which is that there is a real possibility for the end of suffering when you allow yourself to know the truth. Right? And so that's the point. I am feeling I'm doing better, and I feel like I'm going to be at 100% very soon, which is looking forward to that. Right, looking forward to that. And so that said, there's a lot of good stuff in here. So what we're going to do then, I'm just going to kind of close it up, give it a shake, pull 3 pieces. This is neat. I haven't looked it up yet. RPI Soiree. This is just, how cool is this piece? Like, how neat is he? And on his hat, it says RPI. I'll have to look that up at some point. See what RPI is. BCF with a treble clef. She was a singer too. We sang in the choir together. She was a beautiful soprano. This is a great piece. Like, if this is waiting to become an owl with those 2 eyes, and I just needed like something to stick in there to put it on to give it a body, an owl body. Let's see. Well, maybe. I'm kind of used to give him some feet. All right. That's interesting. What's that happy face? I know there's a happy face in here somewhere. All right, so it's a 1986 World Series pin. I mean, come on, people. You're never going to see the Mets win another World Series. Let's be real. I kid. No, I don't. All right. No, okay, so let's just give it a shuffle. Let's do this. Let's give it. I'm just going to pull 3 at random and put them on the dish. Okay. Interesting. One of them I can tell what it is. Oh, interesting. Okay, this is what I got. This was first. Yeah, so we got it. There's the bolt. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, look who just walked in to see what condition my condition was in. And let me tell you, I'm doing pretty good. Good to see you, my dude. So we have, this is going to be an interesting story tonight, right? Who knows what that is? Obviously, that's a bolt. A limo. Comfort seating. That's a very special type of horn. Right, this is not your average Italian horn. We've seen the Italian horn. Usually it's either red or gold. Right? This one's black. This is a very different kind of horn. So we have a nut or a screw or a bolt. There's a couple ways that we can reference that, what that is, and we'll talk about that in a sec. It has a job, right? And then we have this. He has a job too. There's a couple of jobs this one has. And then this here as well. So now let's look at the intent of these 3 items to try to get a sense of maybe how we can talk about what their reason for being is. The first one here is it's meant to screw in to a certain spot, right? But then the rest of this to be unthreaded so that something can slide back and forth, or to slide around it. Or to allow there to be some type of motion inside of that hole before it gets locked into place. But ultimately also what it's designed to do, what it's meant to do, is to take one thing and to keep it close to something else. It's a thing that's designed to hold two things together. Usually with some type of intent, meaning that like to hold the door to the wall so that it can serve as a door, or to hold two things together so that the combined thing will be useful, but apart they're not useful, right? And so it's the idea that it's not just to hold two things together for the sake of that, but that there's an actual reason behind that, and that reason is a benefit, that that it's worth doing. And so what it is the enabler of connections. This is the matchmaker. This is the yenta, right? Now, it's very hard for people to look at a bolt and think yenta, but now you understand how I got there, right? And the second one here we have is a camel, right? What does a camel do? It transverses long distances. It conveys. It's a conveyance. It also refers to the storage, right? The camel is what makes it useful is the shape of its hooves, and the fact that it's able to transverse long periods of time through its own sustenance. It's able to weather the desolation through its own internal systems, basically by tapping its own water. It's a symbol of water. Why does it appear on the High Priestess? Because the High Priestess is a symbol of the moon. And then we have this third piece, which is a very powerful charm against evil. But this is a different kind of charm against evil. There's some charms against evil that are good. They're so bright that they drowned out the shadow. This one's different. This one's like, fuck you, I'm bigger than you. You think I'm scared of you? You think you're dark? So this is a different kind of idea, right? This is fighting fire with fire. This is giving into your darkness and saying, bitch, here it is. Come get it. Oh, did you think you were gonna? Okay, I guess you realized it was the wrong. All right, I'll give you a sec to walk away, and if you don't, this is gonna go down. Right? So this is a spiritual moment of standing your ground in front of darkness by being darker. It's that idea. And so now if you consider what we're talking about here, let's just look at this combination. This is the idea of the enabler of connections. This is the idea of the conveyance to water, or the water being the conveyance. Water being the conveyance. The method of the transformation. The method of the transportation is emotion. And giving into one's darkness in order that they can combat darkness. And so another way I'm going to put that is, especially the period of time that we're in right now, with respect to the energy going on with this divine feminine, the divine feminine, and with respect to the Lilith energy, divine feminine with respect to the High Priestess as opposed to the Empress, Lilith as opposed to Eve, not the nurturer, the empowerer, the devourer. Because again, speaking is an act of creation, and the only way to speak is to listen. And so we understand this role reversal, the gender and the polarity, the idea that the man is the one that is the active. He's not the one receiving, he's the one giving, she's the one receiving. However, when he allows himself to be open to her and gives in completely to her, he becomes consumed. And in that act, he becomes the listener. She speaks. And he receives her. And it is the act of reception through the act of bestowal. He receives her by giving. She gives to him by receiving. And so it's the beautiful dichotomy of that talk back and forth. So what we have here is the enabler of the connection being travel through the heart of the heart, with the intent of combining with the divine feminine, i.e. giving into your dark side, the black female to the white male, which we've noticed in the in the Lover's card, that's reversed, right? It's the black male with the white female energy. You have the white eagle and the red lion, but that flips when they're combined, and so it becomes the black female and the white male. The bird becomes red, the lion becomes white, right? So it flips the energies completely. The poles flip-flop. And that happens on an energetic level. Here, the divine masculine stays masculine, the divine feminine stays feminine, but the polarity changes there during the union. And this is the idea of the heart being the thing that is the conveyance to allow that opening to take place. To say, like, I'm going to allow myself to be open to that darkness, so that I might become greater for it and combat the darkness with it. And in doing so, it gives us the ability to integrate and embody. And in doing so, we can know that energy to the degree that we can now readily and easily invoke whenever necessary, which is the goal anyway. And so that camel becomes integrated, and we become it. We hop on, like we're able to get through that period, and to enter this naturally. These are no longer necessary, and this just becomes one of our natural states that we can hop in and out of whenever needed. Right? And so that's an important component there. And so it's the idea that water can bring us to the darkness, to the dark. And because it's in the dark, like we spoke about with the idea of the hermit, it's in the dark that we are able to shed and to find the truth and to allow our inner light to shine as opposed to reflect. And that's the work that we're here to do. Right? And when we're open to doing that, the result of that is truth. So let's try to turn that into a sentence, right? Fear not, the inspiration will carry you through the darkness. No. Come with me. Your heart knows the truth. Don't fear the dark. You are the dark. And if the goal is to die daily and you recognize that you're the darkness, then, give in to the light. Because what does the light do? It consumes the dark. But you can't be consumed by the dark, by the light, unless you're dark. You have to give into it. You have to recognize that it's you. I'll hold your hand. You'll book you, okay. We'll get there together. And when we do, you're going to come out, okay. And you're going to recognize the truth. So you want to do another one? Or should we read some cards? Or you want to do some beads? Or should we do more trinkets? Or I can, there's one thing I want to do too, as well. I just want to read one chapter from Duquette's book related to the hangman. I just think it's a neat chapter. So what do you guys want to do? I'll put it out there. And if anyone has any questions or wants to do a quick reading, I'm happy to do it. We can do some cards on either a tarot or my phone service went. Oh, well, you can go back. It depends on when it cut off. You can go back and catch up and then hit live when you hit a spot you think you're caught up. But, I'm sorry. I know mine's. I'm not going to say it. The stream's still going. But yeah, so 2:22 and 55 seconds, and it's still going. And 58, 59, 202, 23. Good stuff. So, yeah. What should we do? We could do tarot, or we can do let's ask the trinkets what we should do. A quick reading? Sure. You want me to do cards for you? What do you want to do? You tell me. This is what we should do. So we have 2 little hearts. Now let's look at the beads here. We have 2 purple beads, 2 green beads, and then we have 1 white and 1 red. So 1 will, 1 mind, 2 hearts, 2 pentacles, 2 bodies, 2 hearts with a unified mind and will. This is actually beautiful. What this is, like, no joke. I know everyone thinks I'm stretching, but this is beautiful. This is actually the art card. This is actually the unified being. Yeah, the eclipse is going to be peaking when? 3:44, in about an hour and a half. And then we have the metal heart, right? Which is the heart that's washed clean by sword. And then we have the other heart, which is the one that's upside down, pouring down onto that, right? So this is that idea. This is a great one. And it's the union of essentially 2 separate bodies with 2 separate hearts, but they have 1 shared mind and will. Which is, there's a word for that. You know what that word is? You and I. It's true. Okay, let's pick a random one, and then we're gonna pull some cards. I think I'm gonna do. Should I do Thoth? Should I do Tarot Ceremonial Magic? Or should I do Surrealist Tarot? It's pretty. It's like a rose with a pearl. I don't think it's real. I think, this is definitely gold leaf. This is not real. The pearl might be, though. It's pretty heavy. Let me see. I don't know. Maybe not. Something special. Alright, let's move this stuff. Who's voting tomorrow? If you're not voting, vote. If you're voting, then please, then good. Please vote tomorrow. I don't care who you're voting for. I don't care what side you're voting for. I don't care who you're voting for. Just do it. I don't care. I don't care if you're voting for ugly people that are angry people that would not like me. Please vote for them. It's your duty. If you're not from America, ignore everything I'm saying. But we're having elections tomorrow, so please vote. Just do it. Mail in an absentee ballot. There's no excuse. You don't have to leave the house. Shut up. There's absentee ballots. Freaking vote. I don't want to hear it. Do your duty. If you live in California, you're off the hook. You guys are